February 12 is Abraham Lincoln's birthday. His stories and speeches have infinite meaning for us today, 150 years later. One of Lincoln's biographers, Carl Sandburg, was born in Galesville, Illinois in 1878. He attended the town's Universalist Lombard College. He was a member of the Unitarian Church in Asheville, North Carolina, when he died in 1967. Sandburg's poem, The Long Shadow of Lincoln, a litany, begins with President Lincoln's words from his message to Congress on December 1, 1862. We can succeed only by concert. The dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion. As our case is new, so we must think anew and act anew. We must disenthrall ourselves.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Steve Squires, and on behalf of the All Souls Church Board of Trustees, I extend a warm welcome to everyone this morning. Welcome to the congregation of All Souls, the home of a faith community where souls are deepened, spirits enlivened, and hearts opened and minds stimulated, and where we join hands in service to save the world, or at least the parts that we can. All Souls is a faith community for people who want to discern their own beliefs about spiritual, ethical, and theological issues. We unite on a foundation of commonly held values that call us to live in right relations. The core principles of our faith, Unitarian Universalism, include reason, freedom, and justice, reason in matters of religion, freedom to choose one's own spiritual path, and putting our faith into action for justice. If you're visiting this morning, or if you're searching for a spiritual home, we hope you find a warm welcome here. We look forward to meeting you and invite you to stay with us after the service for refreshments and conversation. If you'd like to meet our minister, she will be available in the foyer during coffee hour.
My name is Marguerite Monet, and I'm here today to talk to you about the youth group's trip to Kenya that happens in April. I can't believe it's finally coming. A number of years ago, Lisa Sparrow at the Guilford Community Church and Barbara started working together to develop an interfaith youth group. And I guess it was about 3 years ago that they went to the Gulf Coast? At least three, maybe 4 years ago that the first group went to the Gulf Coast to do service work following Hurricane Katrina. It seems like we had. At any rate, so that was the beginning of an interfaith youth group starting. And initially it was those two churches that were trying to join together to find meaningful experiences for our young people. Who in their teenage years were not particularly interested in coming to Sunday morning services. Over that time, the group has done a lot of work in our local community, making meals and serving them at the overflow shelter, gathering food for the drop-in center, and some of those same children were cleaning up for Irene that did happen here. So they've been pretty busy in their own community. And so when almost 2 years ago, we had a group meeting, we were doing service. Oh, that was another project. We frequently would go and clean and prepare Green Mountain Camp for the summer campers. And we were having a group meeting during one of those weekends and talking about what would we like to do for future projects, like a bigger project. And there were a lot of ideas that were brought up. And one of them was going to Africa. And every face in the room lit up when they started talking about that. And so when it came time to vote, it was pretty unanimous that we all wanted to go to Africa. part of that came again from the Guilford Church. A number of years ago, Wangari Maathai, the woman who started the Green Belt movement in Kenya, came to Vermont and was a guest at Guilford Church, planted a tree there, and many of you may have seen her speak. She's, when they say like swords into plowshares, she was swords into seedlings. She really was responsible for this incredible movement that also had a lot of political clout behind it besides just planting trees. We were to meet Wangari. We were going to her home village, and unfortunately this last year she became quite ill and died. But we will be meeting with her daughter. And we're going to the village called Kaguchu, which was Wangari's home village. Also, a number of years ago, what happened was the Interfaith Youth Group began a connection with a youth group in Kaguchu. So they were one of the first youth groups to join the Green Belt movement. So we were aware of that work that they were doing, but over time we realized that, like many young people throughout Central and Southern Africa, they were raising their younger siblings because they had lost their parents to AIDS. And what these young people amazingly have done with very little is to create a school in Kaguchu for children who were orphaned to AIDS from all over that district. Many of those children walk as much as 2 hours a day, one way, to go to school. And as you know, in many of the countries in Africa, they don't, you pay to go to school. There's school fees. And so many of these kids don't have school fees, and they don't have uniforms, and they don't have school supplies. So a lot of what has been done over the years is to help them to build that up. And they have recently started, with help through the group, a cyber cafe. And Lawrence, one of the leading young men, is a forester, and he is emailing us back and forth about being very excited about the group coming. So we're terribly excited to go. As you know, many of you know, I've been working for the AIDS Project in Brattleboro for 15 years. So the opportunity to take what I've learned to Africa and hopefully be of some kind of help or connection would be really lovely too. Sherry Broadhurst, who's a local doctor, will be going with us. It turns out Sherry is a very able carpenter and has plans to build a very special bench to honor Wangari. There's a large tree in the village center where everything takes place. And we're going to plant trees. We're going to work in the school with the children. We have a shoe project that you may have seen out in the foyer, where we are trying to raise enough money to have a local cobbler make shoes for all of the children. Many of them have never had a pair of shoes. And there are certain types of parasites and things that are picked up through your feet. So it would be nice if they could have shoes to walk to school in. Actually, one of the people who's going with us is a man whose name is Paul Odongo. And he is from Kenya, but lives here now. And he's going with us, and he's teaching us a little bit of Swahili. He never received his first pair of shoes until he was in 9th grade. So he's made it clear to us that this shoe project is a big deal. So we're all very excited about going. And we leave April 18th. Steve from Insight Photography is coming, and he's going to help us to document our trip. The different faith communities that are involved are All Souls Church, the Dummerston and Church, First and Center Congregational Churches, Newfane Congregational Church, Guilford Community Church, and St. Michael's Church. All of these churches in this community have youth that are represented that will be going on this trip. So, and they're all very, very excited. So.
Good morning. I'd like to welcome our children to come forward, but this morning what I'd like you to do before you come forward is make sure you have a hymnal, one of those gray hymnals in your hand. Wait, so can you make a stack of those hymnals just right here? Actually, wait, hold on to your hymnal for 1 second. How tough is it to lift that hymnal up? Is it heavy? Owen's making it look like it's not so heavy. Yeah, May doesn't think it's so heavy. No? All right, now make a stack one. That'd be great. Yeah, because I think the pages are really, really thin because there are so many pages, kind of like a dictionary. 8 hymnals. Now, I would like to ask for a volunteer.
To do what?
Lily. I am wondering if you can just pick that entire stack of hymnals up. Is that heavier than the hymnals you were carrying before? 8 times the weight it would normally be. That's a great way to put it. Sometimes when we are in a big group of people, instead of each of us carrying one hymnal, we hand all of our hymnals to one person to carry. But when we're in community, and when we're showing love for one another, we each take our own hymnal, and we share the burden of carrying the hymnals together.
To preface the reading from President Obama's 2012 State of the Union Address, we may recall one of Abraham Lincoln's legendary quips from The Lonesome Train by Millard Lampo and Earl Robinson. Lincoln was among American citizens of his day when a woman asks him, "Well, I say, America for Americans. What happens on the other side of the ocean shouldn't be any skin off our backs. Isn't that right, Mr. Lincoln?" Lincoln replies, "Well, I'll tell you, ma'am. It seems to me the strongest bond of human sympathy, outside your family, of course, should be the one uniting all working people of all nations, tongues, and kindred." Now, this is the reading from our President Barack Obama. State of the Union Address excerpt. "My grandfather and grandmother shared the optimism of a nation that had triumphed over a depression and fascism. They understood they were part of something larger, that they were contributing to a story of success that every American had a chance to share. The basic American promise that if you worked hard and you could do well enough to raise a family, own a home, send your kids to college, and put a little away for retirement. The defining issue of our time is how to keep that promise alive. No challenge is more urgent. No debate is more important. We can either settle for a country where a shrinking number of people do really well, while a growing number of Americans barely get by. Or we can restore an economy where everyone gets a fair shot, and everyone does their fair share, and everyone plays by the same set of rules. What's at stake aren't democratic values or Republican values, but American values. Peace is the bread we break, love is the river rolling, life is the chance we take when we make this earth our home. Peace is the bread we break, love is the river rolling, life is the chance we take when we make this earth our home. When we make this
President Obama's State of the Union address was quite good, inspired. He got my attention right from the beginning when he said, we can either settle for a country where a shrinking number of people do really well, while a growing number of Americans barely get by. Or we can restore an economy where everyone gets a fair shot and everyone does their fair share and everyone plays by the same set of rules. What's at stake aren't democratic values or Republican values, but American values. And we have to reclaim them. Just imagine what it would look like if our economy was restored and everyone got a fair shot. And everyone did their fair share. And everyone played by the same set of rules. What if it was true, not only for all of us in this nation, but everywhere around the world? In Africa, in China, Tibet, everywhere. I happen to believe that we can realize this ideal, this hope, this vision, even on a grand scale, because the values Obama talked about are not exclusively American. He was really talking about universal values. Yes, the United States was founded in a unique way. First, in 1776, the Continental Congress announced with a Declaration of Independence that the 13 American colonies were no longer a part of Great Britain. Everyone knows the profound statement that everyone has come to cherish. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, which of course means all people, are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. A few years later, leaders from the 13 different colonies established a set of rules for governing this fledgling nation, the Constitution of the United States, which begins with this bold statement: "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." What a grand vision. Imagine what it would look like if all of our leaders across the entire spectrum of affairs, political, economic, financial, social, all areas of American life, if leaders held up high these basic statements and the values they articulate. First, equality. All people, no matter what color, gender, sexual orientation, political party, national or ethnic origin, or religion, all people have equal worth, and everyone enjoys the same basic rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Second, a more perfect union. People working together across the artificial boundaries that separate us: religion, ethnicity, nationality, political, gender, race, to create a beloved community. People working together to create a beloved community. That is what I think President Obama has in mind. That is what I think I heard him say in the State of the Union address when he said, we can restore an economy where everyone gets a fair shot and everyone does their fair share and everyone plays by the same set of rules. The values he spoke of are neither Republican nor Democratic, nor independent for that matter. Maybe progressive, yes. But so were the founding fathers, the leaders who secured the visionary statement by which we live today. The ideas and values the founding fathers set forth were not exclusively American. They were universal, because Every single founding father was well educated and well read. They were familiar with wisdom and truths from many sources. I'm sure the founding fathers were familiar with that basic set of rules that shine forth from ancient times and all major world religions. In its negative form, it is known as the silver rule. One should not treat others in ways that one would not like to be treated. The silver rule. In its positive form, it is known as the golden rule. One should treat others as one would like others to treat oneself. The golden rule. And in a more contemporary twist, it is known as the platinum rule. Treat others in the way they like to be treated. The platinum rule. Now here are 3 examples that illustrate the universality of these rules. One of the 7 sages of Greece, Pittacus, expressed it this way. Do not to your neighbor what you would take ill from him. According to Confucianism, it sounds like this. Surely it is the maxim of loving kindness. Do not unto others that you would not have them do unto you. Hinduism puts it this way. This is the sum of duty. Do not unto others what you would not have them do unto you. The golden rule, along with the silver rule and the platinum rule, are universal enough to include humanists as well. Because this set of rules speak to the human condition of how we need to be in relationship with each other. It comes from human beings, and it pertains to human beings. Imagine what it would look like if everywhere people lived according to the same set of rules. Well, I know it's not easy. It's not easy at all to live by the same set of rules. I think part of it is because we're individuals and we come sometimes to different understandings of what the rules mean. And sometimes when that happens, it goes downhill before we find the common ground that enable us to be more fair and just, and to have common understanding. What bothers me about the current state of affairs, and what I observe on the sidelines of the Republican primaries, is that the one goal that the candidates seem to have in common is to get rid of President Obama. I don't know if that is true, but that is how I hear what they're proposing. That is the rallying call that I hear more than anything else. It is not this vision of being a more perfect union for all of us, but simply to get rid of the current leader. Not only do they continue to question President Obama's citizenship and his religious affiliation, but they also come down on his vision, which they claim will destroy this nation. His vision is a liberal vision. And for many who are involved in politics today, the word liberal has come to mean something very negative. But this nation was founded on extremely liberal, progressive ideals. I cannot help but wonder how much of all of this, the negativity, is actually a form of deep-rooted racism. I don't think it is an accident that the negativity and viciousness is directed at a black man, our first elected black president of this nation. I'm not saying that just because there's criticism, it means racism. But I do wonder how much racism is a part of this negativity and wanting, more than anything else, to discredit the president. I also wonder about fear and how much fear plays into what is happening. The fear of liberalism's insistence on placing all people on a level playing field. One of the progressive voices we can hear these days, thank goodness, is Warren Buffett. I admire Warren Buffett, but not because he makes a lot of money. I admire him because he has the guts to stand up and say publicly that he's not paying enough taxes and that is not fair. Obama has listened to Buffett to ensure a more fair and equitable tax plan. President Obama has called for the Buffett rule. The Buffett rule, as I'm sure you already know, is a tax plan proposed to alleviate income inequality in this nation and applies to individuals earning more than $1 million per year. That amount of money, I can't even comprehend what it would be like to earn. And I'm sure you cannot comprehend your minister earning $1 million either. Anyway, Warren Buffett's tax rate is 17.4%. 17.4%. His secretary's tax rate is 35.8, almost twice. Nearly twice. And that's the rub. Warren Buffett says just is not fair. So, the point is to play by the same set of rules. Now, back to the Founding Fathers for a moment. They really did have a vision back then, that this nation could become a new kind of a nation based on equality and justice. This is the vision that Martin Luther King Jr. spoke of during the Civil Rights Movement. He called his vision the beloved community. At the heart of Martin Luther King's vision of a beloved community was that very American dream of equality and justice for all. In an article written by the Reverend Shirley Strong a few years ago, an article titled "Toward a Vision of Beloved Community," she wrote that Martin Luther King believed that in the United States, the beloved community would require a radically restructured society. This would mean raising fundamental questions about an economic system that places the wants of the few above the basic needs of the many. Martin Luther King, as brilliant and eloquent as he was in holding up his vision, did not come up with the term beloved community. That distinction belongs to the American religious philosopher Josiah Royce. According to Royce, the quest for the ideal, which has everything to do with equality and justice and achieving the highest good as well as the common good, leads to the creation of a beloved community. That was the kind of vision I believe inspired the Founding Fathers to establish this nation. It is what I think good people everywhere need to envision. Now, President Obama said in his State of the Union address that the challenge is to keep the promise of this nation alive, the promise of equality and justice and freedom. And I agree with him, but it's more than that. The challenge is to make it real, not just to keep the promise alive. We have to work at making it come true. We have to create a beloved community, and where else would we begin than here? In our faith community, here in Brattleboro, here in Windham County, here in Vermont, one of the most progressive states in the Union. But again, here at All Souls Church, we have everything we need in order to establish the reality of a beloved community. We affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person.
We believe that each and every person is important.
We affirm and promote justice, equity, and compassion in human relations.
We believe that all people should be treated fairly.
We affirm and promote acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth.
We believe that our churches are places where all people are accepted and where we keep on learning together.
We affirm and promote a free and responsible search for truth and meaning.
We believe that each person must be free to search for what is true and right in life.
We affirm and promote the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process.
We believe that all people should have a voice and a vote about the things which concern them.
We affirm and promote the goal of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all.
We believe that we should work for a peaceful, fair, and free world.
We affirm and promote respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part.
We believe that we should care for our planet Earth.
And it really means that we need to save our planet. And the way to do that is to create a beloved community, a beloved world community. Everyone is connected by hands, holding hands. And you are blessed by this sacred circle. You are blessed by the spirit of love, which some people call God. And you are blessed by a love that stirs deep within, a love that flows among us here, and a love that embraces all. Go in peace and bless the world with your love. Help us save the world and build a beloved community. Go in peace. Thank you.